सलाम, आदाब, नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल दोस्तों। आप सभी का स्वागत है सिटीजन जस्टिस फोरम के इस वीडियो चैनल पर। हमारा मिशन भारतीय नागरिकों को उनके अधिकारों के बारे में जागरूक करना है जो भारतीय संविधान ने उन्हें दिए है। अगर आप हमारे चैनल पर पहली बार आए हो तो कृपया सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन को क्लिक करके सबको चुनें ताकि हम जब भी नए वीडियो अपलोड करें या ऑनलाइन जाए तो आपको उसकी सूचनाएं मिलती रहे। हमें बहुत खुशी होगी अगर आप इस वीडियो को अपने संपर्क और दोस्तों के साथ साझा करें। हेलो एवरीवन, आई एम एडवोकेट सुलेमान भिमानी and I welcome you all to the Citizen Justice Forum video channel. Our mission is to empower Indian citizens by sharing knowledge about their fundamental rights as specified in the Constitution of India. If you are watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. Select all so you receive notification whenever we upload new videos or go live. Sharing this video with your contacts and friends would be greatly appreciated. Today we have with us a young, talented, dashing and dynamic advocate, Priya Dave Thakkar. She is the founder of Logical Media and is an IP law expert and legal advisor for the entertainment industry. With a proven track record of over 7 years and a Master of Law in IPR and Information Technology, she safeguards your creative vision and maximizes its commercial value. Priya has a deep understanding of copyright law, trademark protection, and trade secrets. She has secured trademark registration for various clients and successfully navigated complex copyright and trademark infringement cases. Additionally, Priya guides production houses from pre-production to post-production stage, offering strategic advice on talent agreements, distribution deals, channel partnerships, and more. She safeguards your intellectual property portfolio, ensuring your creative assets, ideas are protected throughout the entire production process. So here we will have a great time and a great experience on how to crack trademark code, a beginner's guide to filing an objection.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. So if you are a budding entrepreneur or a business owner and you are looking to protect your brand, then you've come to the right place. Today, we'll be diving into the world of Indian trademark law. We'll break down the processes of filing trademark application and navigating these objections that usually people receive under Section 9 and Section 11 of the Trademark Act. So let's start. So first try to just understand what is trademarks. So trademark is usually a word or a logo or a slogan and even a sound that will distinguish your products or service from those of others. Now registering your trademark gives you exclusive rights to use it and prevent others from copying or using it without your permission. Strong trademarks can be incredible valuable assets. It can boost your brand recognition, deter competitors, and even increase the value of your business. That's why protecting your trademark is extremely crucial. Now, how do you file your trademark application? Now, filing a trademark application can be, can seem very daunting, but it's actually pretty straightforward. So, initially, what you will do is carry out a trademark search. You can consult a trademark attorney for that, who will help you navigate how to conduct a trademark search. Now, what this search ensures is to check whether your desired trademark is available or not. Once it passes through this process of trademark search, and if your mark is readily available and nobody else or none of the other brands have taken it, then you can go ahead and register the same. Now, in the application, there would be details such as name, address, whether it's a partnership or you are an individual owner or it's an LLP, it's a trust, company, etc. You will have to fill out all the details, select it. You will also have to fill out your trademark. And if in case it's a logo or a sound mark, then you will have to upload those particular documents. And also mention your class in which you are filing. So class 1, so we have classes 1 to 45. we follow the NICE classification. So from class 1 to 34 deals with number of goods, and from 35 to 45 it is services. So once you also identify the class in which you would want your trademark to be registered, then you can proceed. And in case you are using it prior to the date of your application, so say for example you are making an application in the month of August, but you've already started using your products, say since January of this year, so you can file an affidavit also with the evidence stating how you've been using it since January. So you may have your sales records, your social media presence, your advertisements, which you can attach it in the affidavit saying that you are using it since the month of January, and file the affidavit. So your application, and then it would be considered that you are using this mark from January 2024, although your application that you are filing would be in August of 2024. Now you'll fill out all the details, submit these documents, and it goes for scrutiny. Now you should also be careful at the time of selecting your class to identify in which class you should register your trademark. So again, you need an expert to sort of guide you, help you if your trademark is applicable only in one class, or if it is applicable in more than one class, if 2 or 3 classes are applicable. Then, as I mentioned, then you just have to file your applications and pay the prescribed fee. So it's 4,500 for MSME or a proprietorship concern, and for others, be it partnership, company, LLP, trust, it is 9,000 when you pay it online. And please do double check your information before submitting the application. And because if you do any such mistake, then you will have to again bear some fee so as to rectify your trademark application. Now, once you've already filed your trademark application, the officer examines your applications, and once it passes the formalities check pass, it goes for examination. Now, what would they do? They would try to see if the mark is not they would themselves conduct the trademark search. So if you've already done a trademark search and you are pretty sure that nobody else is using that particular brand name, then there you are. It's a tick mark, and your application will move forward. And they will also check if it is not similar to any other brand's name. They will also check if it is not too descriptive, it is not very generic, if it is not a name of a geographical place, because these names are not allowed for trademark registration. So Section 9 and Section 11 of the Trademark Act outlines common grounds for these objections. Now Section 9, now this objection arises when your trademark is considered deceptively misleading or contrary to public order or morality. And Section 11 objection is raised if your trademark is identical or similar to an existing trademark in the same or related goods or services. Now I'll talk to you about more the objections in great detail. Now under Section 9(1)(a), this pertains to marks that lack distinctive character and are incapable of distinguishing the goods or services of one person from those of others. In the essence, this mark is considered to be too generic or very common to even function as a trademark. Now example would be, say it is a very common word. Say you've given is very descriptive. So say Kashmiri, you've given, but it is for shawls. So these are such applications that would then attract Section 9(1)(a) objection. Now, how do you overcome this objection if you receive any objection under Section 9(1)(a)? You have to prove how your mark has acquired distinctiveness, which you will prove only through sales figures and your advertisement expenditure, because that gives a proof that your mark has acquired distinctiveness. The amount of money that you're spending on your advertising, you can also attach your newspaper clippings, your advertisement that you've posted on social media and any such platforms, and also your sales figures, so as to prove that the mark has acquired a secondary meaning in the minds of public and is now recognized as identifying that this particular name would mean that this is your good or your service. Again, if if your name is very generic, we'll, for example, take again as Kashmiri shawl. The name is Kashmiri shawl. However, you've registered it as a logo. Now there are some unique elements attached to it. There is a unique color scheme to it. There is a unique manner in which you've written it. There is a shawl or an outline. Anything which is unique about the color schemes or the design element or the typography, which will help you to waive these objections and clarify that these distinctiveness in your marks is enhancing your mark basically, and it is not descriptive. This will help to clear your objection. Now section 9(1)(b) talks about the marks that are devoid of any distinctive character, meaning they are purely descriptive of the goods and services. Such marks are considered to be too generic. Now under 9(1)(d), it would describe a mark that directly describes the nature or the quality or the function of the goods or service. So say for example, you are trying to register for a restaurant that you've opened, you're registering in the service category and you've named it as fast food. Or say for example, a mark that is a very common ingredient or it is a component of the product. So say for example, a bread, but your naming is that wheat. Now how do you overcome such objections? So it is very similar to how you sort of respond when it comes to section 9(1)(a), that you prove that this mark has acquired a secondary meaning through use. Now you have to argue, when it especially comes to section 9(1)(b), you have to argue that the mark is suggestive rather than descriptive, requiring consumers to exercise imagination to connect the mark with the goods or services. And if in case the mark is a combination of elements, so say for example, it has a unique logo, it has some sort of an element, you could say that the mark should be looked off as a whole and you should not separate the mark, right? Because usually when you get your trademark registration, so the mark that you filed it as a whole. So say for example, I am filing it as Priya Fast Food, say for example. So the way in which Priya would be written, considering that, say for example, it's a logo mark. So the way in which Priya is written, the way fast food is written with a unique color coding elements or the unique style, you have to say that this mark should be looked as a whole, and you cannot differentiate it by saying that because it has fast food that it becomes generic. These are just some tips and tricks that sort of you can help to make them understand that this creates a distinctive impression, and in reality it should create a distinctive impression. Please don't go out for registering such generic names, of course. Now, what are the key considerations that you should look for? So first is, you have to, if you get section 9 or 11 objection, you need to know that the burden is upon you to prove how it is distinctive, how it does not fall under the category of section 9 and section 11, and how the mark is registrable. Next is, you can refer to case laws. Probably your trademark attorney would know these case laws for section 9 and section 11, and how it can, those relevant case laws, and so as to strengthen your case and your arguments. And also the time frame for responding to such objection is 30 days. So please ensure that you are filing your objections within 30 days from the date of receipt of the examination report. Now, by understanding these nuances of these sections and effectively addressing these objections, you can increase your chances of successfully registering your trademark. So we've discussed the section 9 objections. Now we'll move on to section 11 objections. Now section 11 objections are relative grounds of refusing a trademark application. Now this means that a trademark can be objected to if it is similar or identical to an existing mark and is likely to cause confusion among other consumers. Now why do you receive section 11 objection is? If it is identical with an earlier trademark, or it is similar to the goods and services in which they have also reflected. So say for instance, if your trademark application is identical to an existing trademark and the goods and services are also covered by the same goods and services are being registered, say for example in the same class, then the registration can be refused. Now similarly, if an earlier trademark and the identity or the similarity of the goods and services are identical. So say for example, when your trademark is not identical, but the goods and services in which, the class in which you are trying to register is same, and there seems to be some likelihood of confusion, then you can receive a potential objection because of this. Now, third is your well-known trademark. So if your trademark is similar to a well-known trademark, so even if the goods and services are different, registration can be refused. This is to protect the reputation and goodwill of the well-known mark. So say for example, Tanishq is a well-known trademark. Now it is in jewelry. But say for example, you want to register Tanishq for services like advertising, or say restaurant, or for clothing, you still cannot do it. Why? Because it is a well-known trademark and it needs to be protected. Now, if the proposed trademark infringes upon any existing unregistered trademark, the registration also can be refused. Now, what are the factors that are considered for similarity while receiving objections under Section 11? Now, when they are determining the similarity between trademarks, they try to see if it is visually similar. Now, how similar they are in terms of their appearance, how similar the words are, if they are phonetically similar, bata, like that, bata, tata, something like that. Now, conceptually, how similar they are. So, are this concept very similar, and the marks, the ideas and the concepts which the mark is trying to convey is very similar to an already existing registered trademark. And lastly, the overall impression that will be created in the minds of consumers. Now, how do you go about, replying to these objections under Section 11? So, firstly, you have to argue that the marks are completely dissimilar. Now, in terms of their visual, phonetic and conceptual aspects, you have to draw a conclusion. You have to do give them a side-by-side comparison, try to talk about how this mark is in a particular way, how your mark is in a particular way. And it would especially help if your mark is a logo mark. So if you've registered as a device mark, you could talk about how the elements are different, how it has a unique logo to it, and how it is visually and conceptually very different from the mark from which they are taking as an example and telling you that you cannot register it. You could also argue that that your goods and services are different to their services. So as I mentioned earlier, we have class 1 to class 45. Class 1 to 34 deals with goods, and class 35 to 45 deals with services. So even on goods, so say for example, class 1 that deals with I believe it deals with the chemicals. So it has a lot of goods category under class 1. It is not just one particular goods. It has a lot of categories of goods. So say for example, you are into chemical, but under class 1 you are trying to register, and there is an existing trademark that is already registered or probably in process, but under class 1 they deal with some other category of goods. So you can try to say that although you both are trying to register under class 1, but your goods are different from the goods that this existing trademark has tried to register. And you can argue that these marks are entirely different and unrelated. Thirdly, of course, you have to prove that your mark has acquired a strong reputation and is well known among customers, and there is less likelihood of confusion between these marks. Now, the fourth is honest and concurrent use. Now, you have to demonstrate that you have been using your mark honestly and concurrently, and the fact that both these marks have been used and there is no confusion between the minds of public. Now, and there are times when your sister company is only filing it, or it is an extension of your own registered trademark. So then in that case, you can always say that it is a sister concerns application, or the fact that the earlier trademark was also your application and now you're file another application because it is an extension of your product. So say for example, you are in furniture, chairs, say for it. You already launched a chair under one umbrella name. We'll take say lawsuits for example. Now under lawsuits you've been selling chairs. Now you want to come. You are coming for a different variant. So now you are saying lawsuits, ergonomic, and some other words that you sort of apply to it. Now because you receive an objection saying that lawsuits is already registered for the class in which chairs are usually applicable, you could say that this belongs to you only. A lot of times, so you could say that this lawsuits belongs to you, or probably your sister concern only, and you can obtain and when it comes to your sister concern companies, you can always obtain a NOC or consent letter from these sister concerns and put it on record saying that you already have a consent to use this mark, or the fact that this is a extension of your application. So in this manner also you can get that objection removed. So once we've dealt with the section 9 and section 11 objections and you've replied, now if your objection is not resolved through these correspondences, you might need to attend the hearing. So basically your trademark attorney will attend it for you. You have to be prepared and you have to present your arguments and evidence. So evidence, as mentioned earlier, it would contain your sales figures, your advertisement expenditure, and all of your advertisements, the newspaper cuttings, the social media advertisement that you've done. So it is extremely, extremely crucial that you maintain these records of sales, your advertising expenditure, etc. Also, please keep in mind that, so say for example, you are selling chair. So a lot of companies and a lot of startups have noticed that usually they'll have a name for the chair. So say for example, your brand name is lawsuits that you want to register also as a trademark, but you have basically a product code, like a situation. So you're basically just writing chair in your invoice and then you're selling it, but then you come up saying that, no, I've sold the chair, but it is under the brand name of lawsuits. Then no, please ensure that even in your invoice you are just not writing chair or the product code that you may have assigned for it. It is important and it is very crucial for you to mention lawsuits, chair, and then your product code or whatever you would have as your internal policy, and then sell it, so that these invoices can basically come and be a part of your evidence, basically saying that lawsuits ये chairs ने इतने सारी sales की है. It helps. Now, overcoming these objections can seem to be challenging, but when you have documents and evidence, when you have a strong strategy, and the strategies, of course, that I've given in this video, I hope they are helpful and it helps you in protecting your brand. So, lastly, I would just like to conclude that protecting your brand is an investment in your business's future. By understanding the trademark filing process and knowing how to handle objections, you are taking a significant step towards building a strong and a recognizable brand. Thank you so much. Over to you.
It was a wonderful explanation, Priya. Now there are some questions, right? What happens if I find a similar trademark during my trademark search?
Okay. So first answer would be that not to file it if it is very similar or very identical. However, there are ways to go about it. So as I said, probably, say for example, they are into a different, the class would be the same, but probably they are into some different category of good, the subclass. And you would be in a different subclass, and maybe you could try and register, and of course consult your trademark attorney to sort of find a way out, incorporate some elements.
If it is similar or identical to the same services and goods, the same class, then I think you should avoid it and go for something new idea.
Absolutely.
Now I'll tell you the trademark, it has to be such a way that it should not be in descriptive, which it shows that it is going, like I cannot have a Irani chai or what you call something vada pav, because vada pav is a common in Maharashtra. Now in Delhi also they have started selling vada pavs, but they don't taste like what we get in Mumbai. But I'll give you some ideas, that how these different trademarks which have, which we are being using day to day. That is, one is Zepto, Zomato, Swiggy, Blinkit, Oyo. Then Tamrin is a trademark for garments. Then Ola and Uber. So these are not very descriptive. If they have gone for registration, they would have easily passed because nobody knew what is Ola and it doesn't mean anything, right? And like Uber, nobody knows. But now we know it is related with the rental cars or rental taxis, what you call. But if I open one more with a similar name, like instead of Uber, I will write Zuber. So then they can take an objection because Uber has already created a brand, right? So I cannot cash on the efforts and the time which they have spent in creating their brand. So you have to be careful, come out with something new ideas so that it is not similar, right? So you will not get any objections. Or the trademark, like suppose if I want to do it with something like masala chai and my logo is like cup and saucer and the steam coming out of this thing, but it is generic and it is what you call a descriptive logo, so that it is going to be rejected. So come out and before registering, before going for, catch hold of good attorney like Priya Dave Thakkar, so that she can guide you how you should select your name, how you should select, so that nowadays, if you open your mobile and go to Reel or YouTube, everyone is creating their brand image, right? So you also want to create your brand image. So you have to be careful. You right from the inception, right from the idea, you catch hold of a good advocate who can guide you, navigate to you through this trademark and IPR registration. Now the second question is, what information is required to file in a trademark application?
So as I mentioned, I require your name, address, whether it's a proprietary concern. If you have an MSME registered, well and good, you would require the certificate also, LLP, company, etc., those details. Then your trademark, whether it's a word or a device. If in case it's a device that is a logo, then you'll have to upload the JPG file on the e-filing portal. And if it's a song, you'll have to upload the song file on the portal. And your system, they follow the power of attorney.
So there isn't another expense of taking 500 rupees stamp paper.
100 rupees stamp paper suffices.
For this, otherwise normally for power of attorney, they insist for 500 rupees.
No, but here 100 rupees is fine.
Yeah. So you are saving another 400 rupees. Thank you, Priya, for, all our audience who will be, watching this. They can now say that if I am signing a power of attorney for registering my trademark or for my IPR purpose, the stamp paper required is of only 100 rupees. Now, I hope that you all enjoyed this and you will keep in touch with us to, have a more engaging content on legal issues. So stay tuned to our channel for more updates on legal matters that affect you. If you find this video informative, then like, subscribe and share with your contacts and friends for more engaging content on legal issues. See you again in the next video with a new topic. Till then, take care, stay blessed, be safe and remain healthy. Thank you.